All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to talk to an individual heavily involved in XFC, one of their board members, and great to talk to him ahead of XFC 52, The Awakening, which transpires March 28th at the Extreme Arena in Iowa. And who better to talk about this than University of Iowa alum Big E? How's it going, man?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, great to get to have you on. I mean, there's so many exciting matches here. And, speaking of, people from out of Iowa or have that connectivity and everything that could apply to Victor Moreno, who's fighting Thiago Oliveira here. Just, what a great fight on a stacked card coming up.
No, absolutely. Iowa has obviously there's such a great passion for amateur wrestling, for combat sports in general. So for me, as an Iowa grad, a former Iowa football player, to be able to go back to the Iowa City area, I'm excited to head back, and I think we're gonna have a great turnout and a great night of fights.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I wasn't really intending to ask this, but you obviously mentioned the football pedigree. I was talking to Sean Merriman recently, who's also involved in MMA and whatnot in terms of like spotlighting it. And he was talking about just like the wealth of talent in the NFL in terms of like people that could come over to MMA's heavyweight division and make a big splash. Are there certain NFL players in like a hypothetical context that you think could really thrive in MMA if they made that switch?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Obviously, I think a lot of guys, if you have that amateur wrestling background, I think that definitely lends itself well. He's long retired, but I think of a guy like Stephen Neal, who played for the Patriots and was, I think, a multi-time national champion in college, and then ended up transferring his talents to the NFL. But yeah, I mean, you have so many guys who are quick-footed, who are 6'4", 6'5". Man, there are a myriad of guys. I don't know if he'd have trouble making the weight, but I think of Tristan Wirfs, an Iowa guy who was the first guy ever who's been All Pro at left tackle and right tackle in the NFL. He's a massive human being, so I don't know if he can make 265. But yeah, it's there's so many guys I think who were introduced to jujitsu, to wrestling, to those other sports earlier on. Maybe they would have made a different route, and I think could have done incredible things in combat sports.
Yeah, and speaking of large individuals who are capable of violent activities, I think that can apply to the co-main event with Darian Abbey and Alex Nicholson. Just on paper, looking like it could be an all-out war for sure.
No, absolutely, and both have fought for us before. I think that fight is going to be a lot of fun. Both like great athletes, big men who can move, who have good feet, and who can throw. And people love seeing the big boys go out there and do their thing. And I know those two guys. Like, I'll be shocked if that goes to a decision. I think someone's going to get stopped, and I'm really looking forward to that fight as well.
Yeah, and then people who do also have that anecdotal familiarity under that XFC banner. I mean, I feel like Kenny Cross has been such a name from the promotion that's really stood out and just headlining against Lucas Corbage. Just great fights all around on this XFC 52 card, it seems like.
No, very much so. And seeing, I was in Detroit when Kenny fought there, and man, people turn out for him, and he's a showman. Seeing him lean into the Shawn Michaels HBK pose, and he brings the entertainment factor as well. He's a guy who goes out there and it looks like he has a ton of fun when he's in the cage. So the fight with Corbage, I think, is going to be a great one. I think we have a great main event, action packed. I think fans will show up, and I know both are going to bring their very best that night.
Yeah, the co-main is truly an instance of big meaty men slapping meat in an MMA sense.
No, not very much so. Just seeing two heavyweights. We're going to go out there. They're going to throw leather. I think they're both going to fight hard. I tend to think we're going to not going to see a ton of grappling. Obviously, I don't know their game plans going in. I think we're going to see a lot of striking on the feet. And both those guys can hit. They can thump. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
And in that same kind of context, I mean, a fight that other people are really desiring to see is that big title unification bout between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. And seeing some reports lately that Jones wants like an additional 6 months to prepare for a fight like that. Do you foresee that UFC heavyweight title unification bout transpiring this year?
I hope so, man. I think I just read that Tom Aspinall has had the interim title for over 400 days. And interim titles are not meant to be held for that long. They're meant to be unified with the championship. And if the champion is healthy, then that's the fight that we want to see. I feel like that's the biggest fight the UFC can make. I would love to see that. It's an incredible fight on paper. We really people know, or there's this assumption that Aspinall can wrestle and grapple, but we haven't had the opportunity to really see much of it. He, I think, is this next. I don't even know if he's the next generation of heavyweights because I'm not sure how many guys after him will have that kind of skill set, that kind of the way he moves. Like he's one of those guys in MMA that I think, oh, I could if he didn't grow up in England and he grew up in the States, there's a good chance he might not have gone that path and might have ended up being an NFL offensive lineman or a defensive end. Just as far as that athletic base that you need in a sport like the NFL and like pro football, he's got it. So I love his skill set. He's been on an absolute tear. And honestly, besides Bones right now, you were looking at guys like Pavlovich to be next up. He doesn't appear to be the next one. You're looking at Jailton Almeida, and his striking clearly isn't quite where it needs to be yet. He's really more of a grappler who isn't as well rounded. So I feel like all the other guys in the heavyweight division who are potentially up to round out the division have kind of not really showed that they deserve to be at the level of an Aspinall. So right now that for me in the heavyweight division is clearly the fight to make. I hope we get it. It feels like a 50-50 coin flip on paper, but I'm really excited. I pray that this year we get to see Aspinall and Bones.
And I think one of the more important recent happenings that I think could really behoove the case of Aspinall for getting that fight was Alex Pereira losing his light heavyweight title to Magomed Ankalaev, because it seemed like Jones had a certain like peripheral awareness of Pereira and kind of wanted to potentially get that fight also.
Yeah, which Ferrer won that fight and won it clearly and definitively. I think it would have been exciting for a lot of people to see him go up to a third weight division in the UFC and see if he could capture gold as well. But now that that's not the case, and it wasn't respect to both fighters, but it wasn't the most thrilling fight of the year. I think now that Pereira fight at heavyweight doesn't make nearly as much sense. Maybe something down the line if we see him win another at heavyweight. I'd love to see him there and see what he can do, but I don't think it makes sense for the next Bones fight. I think it's very clear. I think Aspinall doesn't have a clear threat at heavyweight, and I think the same thing for Bones. I think those guys are on a collision course. If any other fights are made between those two and they're both healthy in the heavyweight division before they fight each other, I think it's a bit of a shame, a bit of a travesty. So I really hope we get it.
Yeah, and kind of like keeping it to the heavyweight division, albeit in a different combat sport, because I'm curious to get your thoughts on the present heavyweight landscape, because I was kind of watching some older YouTube videos and you had quite the electric introduction to Tyson Fury taking on Deontay Wilder. Like, what are your thoughts on the current landscape with guys like Oleksandr Usyk and Daniel Dubois, etc.?
I think they're fun fights to make. We've seen guys like Dubois who are flawed, but have shown that if the right punch lands at the right time, they can beat anyone in the world. I think Usyk right now, I think is clearly in a class of his own in the heavyweight division. A lot of people when he was a cruiserweight, a lot of people just were concerned that he was too small, and he very quickly showed that is not the case. His skill set translated up to the heavyweight division. He's been on fire. I honestly, I would take Usyk against anyone in the world right now. I don't know who gives him much trouble, but I'd love to see the Dubois fight. I'd love to see, I was hopeful that Big Baby would be an American who would continue to climb, and obviously he's had some setbacks, and I don't think he's quite ready for an Usyk fight, and I think it's pretty clear. But I want to see Usyk active. I want to see him against the best challengers. Heavyweights kind of it's fun in that we see there are a lot of guys who have losses on their register, but can still make fun fights and can still throw. So yeah, I would love to see Usyk against a Dubois, against some of the other top heavyweights. I was hoping Big Bang Zhang would continue to rise because I feel like that's kind of a weird stylistic matchup. He's not the fastest heavyweight in the world, but he's knocked people out left and right. So I just want to see Usyk stay active. I want to see him continue to fight at least twice a year. But yeah, it looks like Fury. I'm really intrigued to see where Fury's career goes. Same thing with Wilder. I wish we got so many more of these fights like Wilder Joshua when those guys were in their prime. But that's fight sports. You don't always get the fights when you want them. But Usyk has been such a joy to watch, and he's really the class of the heavyweight division right now.
Yeah, nothing necessarily booked for it, but I feel like there could still be some juice to like a Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, massive domestic attraction, just considering where both are at looking to get back in the win column and all.
No, I definitely think so too, and that's what I think sometimes we don't value this era of heavyweights as much because you don't have a lot of guys who I'd put on an all-time great list. Like I don't think as much fun as Wilder has been to watch, I don't think you put him as a top 10 heavyweight all time. But there are still fun fights to make, and I think that's a really fun attraction that people would be really into. Same thing with Joshua is he might not be an all-time great heavyweight, but he's still a guy who is marketable, very marketable, who has fun fights, who has still, there are times where I thought his career was dwindling down, and then he gets a stoppage out of nowhere, or he has a good performance. So, yeah, I just want to see those guys active. They're all kind of at the tail ends of their careers as they approach. Deontay is, I think, in his late 30s now. So yeah, I'd like to see those guys go out the way they want to as well. And that's the thing. Like if you don't have, Deontay's kind of talked about this new phase of life where he's whatever he's working on internally and investigating. If he doesn't have the same desire to go out there and be in fist fights with other trained killers, then I think him stepping aside and finding peace in other aspects of life is great too. But if those guys still want to fight and make great fights, we as fans we want to see them.
And it seems like with TKO Boxing League mapping out big plans, I feel like they could be a massive player in that kind of sense too. Like I saw a video of you talking about how cool it would be to see that Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez fight. Like I could definitely see that transpiring under the TKO banner even next year potentially. I mean, who knows, right?
No, absolutely. I think the boxing landscape is really changing so much as far as the promoters are concerned and who's putting on these fights. And right now, there's so much money now with the boxing cards in Saudi. So I feel like, I don't know if Canelo, he wasn't really clamoring for this fight, but with the amount of money that could potentially be thrown at him, we might be able to see that fight. And seeing it under a TKO umbrella would be kind of wild. So, you know what? I miss HBO boxing. I miss Showtime boxing. I miss getting the free cards on ESPN. I hope we get back to more options in boxing, especially here in the States as well. But yeah, TKO is obviously making some very big swings in boxing as well. And I think there are some fights that we never thought we would see that we have a good chance of seeing. That Better Biev card, seeing like that card was so absurdly stacked on paper, and that's because of all the influx of money that the Saudis are putting in boxing. So now, yeah, I think we have a chance of seeing some fights that we might not have had a chance of a few years ago.
And you obviously do great analyst work for WWE broadcasts and just considering all the entities under that TKO umbrella, like how much interest would there be in, I guess, taking part in something like that TKO Boxing League or even some collaborative efforts with the UFC, like just entertaining the idea of crossover potential with everything under that TKO umbrella?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fight fan, but I would not say that I am qualified enough to be at the desk calling MMA or calling boxing. But like you alluded to, getting to do the intros for Fury Wilder 3 for me was such a joy. And I would love to be more on the entertainment side of things. Even I got to do Showtime Sean Porter's last two walkouts, that kind of thing. VOing intro packages, things like that are things that really interest me. I'll leave it to guys who have shed blood in the cage and in the ring, who do that for a living. Wrestling is what I've done for the last, decade plus of my life since 2009. I've been with WWE. That I feel like I can really speak to analytically. But yeah, I would love to be involved more on the entertainment side with boxing and with MMA.
Yeah, and you're definitely quite involved. I actually saw you were in my neck of the woods recently in Toronto at St. Lawrence Market and seemed like you had a great time there and everything like that. And just kind of speaks to how big the business is nowadays. Like that was just such a massive event. Like I feel like it's more part of the pop culture zeitgeist than it has been in many years.
Yeah, I was just at this launch party for WWE 2K25 here in the Bay Area, and we were having these same conversations too about just how much the business has grown, even compared. We look back to like what 2022 and coming out of the pandemic and out of lockdowns, and I can't say it was my favorite era of the business. We had some rough years and some. I remember as WWE champion, I would go out and a lot of times these crowds were barely full, and a lot of that was because of COVID restrictions and people getting used to being in crowds again. But Seeing how on fire the product is. I have so many people who aren't even avid John Cena, or sorry, they aren't avid WWE fans, but they're talking about this John Cena heel turn. They're talking about The Rock being back. Do you see Travis Scott slapping Cody Rhodes? Like all these things that I feel like it really is a boom period for our business again. Like one we really haven't seen since the Attitude Era. And I also had such a great time. I love Toronto, one of my favorite cities on the planet. St. Lawrence Market, the food was incredible. And just wrestling, pro wrestling in Canada is such a big deal. We have so much love and so much fan support in Canada, and I always appreciate our Canadian fans and so many of the people that I share a locker room with. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Trish Stratus. So many of the greatest wrestlers of all time are Canadian. Bret Hart. Yeah, so it's great to be in Toronto. It's great to see where the business is right now and to see where it's headed. I think it's a really healthy time, and for me too, as someone who really, even though I'm doing more on the broadcasting side right now, my I made my hay as a wrestler, and seeing other wrestlers have the opportunity to pay their bills, to take care of their families, to make the kind of money that they can retire on and never have to work again. Like that's what I'm excited about, seeing this business grow so that people like me don't have to work at a CVS when they're 50 years old to pay their bills. Not that there's anything wrong with that if that's what you do from day to day, but that's one reason I love seeing where the business is right now, is because the men and women that put their bodies on the line are now being taken care of in the ways they should be.
Yeah, and for sure. And also, if you don't want to, get into this per se, like feel free to, not divulge any info. But I feel like a lot of fans are curious about where you're presently at in that context, because it seems like headlines I see are like, I might get back into it. I'm not entirely sure, trying to like figure some things out. And just even in terms of like general wellness, like how are you doing in terms of the recovery and just what you're doing on that end of things?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for asking. I feel great. The wild thing is it's been over 3 years now. March 11th of 2022 was when I broke my neck, and I've been out for over 3 years. So right now, kind of situation is what it has been for a while, in that the last time I got scans, my C1 had not ossified. It hasn't formed new bone where it's broken, but it has formed my cartilage. So for my day-to-day life, I'm very normal. No pain, no restrictions. I'm so thankful for that. I know people, one of the people on our medical staff, she broke her neck playing softball 20 years ago, and she still deals with headaches, even though she's great. Like, I have none of that. I have no headaches. I have no atrophy. I'm in the gym normally. I have no pain. I didn't have surgery. Like, I'm more than anything, I am so grateful to God, to the universe, to karma, whatever you want to call it. I am grateful to the creator, to whatever magic there is that puts us here on this earth. I am grateful to still have a healthy, normal life. So it's the door is not officially closed on anything. But I will say, I'm 39 years old right now. I also came into wrestling with a myriad of injuries, two torn ACLs playing college football, broken right patella, torn left pec. So now I'm thinking more about if I want to have a healthy, active, mobile life, and 50 is just not that far off for me. It's 11 years down the road for me. So now I'm thinking forward to the future and thinking about the things that I want to do right now. So if that is it for me, I am really satisfied with my career. I got to be WWE champion. I got to be in a tag team, even though we're not currently on speaking terms. I got to be in a tag team with two of my best friends at the time for over a decade. I know they deserve that thumbs down. But I look back at my career and I am wildly, wildly blessed and fortunate. And even I'm so fortunate to have to parlay that right into a broadcasting career that I can do for many years to come, hopefully. So right now, it's kind of still up in the air. Nothing has really changed with my status, but more than anything, I'm immensely blessed. I have so much in my life that I'm grateful for. I feel like I'm just as busy as I was being on the road, 4 or 5 days a week. I have so many things I'm juggling, and I'm really excited about those new challenges. So I appreciate everyone who's reached out, asked how I am, and whatnot. Right now, there's nothing conclusive to report, but I love what I'm doing right now, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear that you're just doing better, man. That's ultimately the most important thing. Like I don't know. I think that too with like the Chris Bay situation. Like he seems like he just handles himself with so much just grace and resilience and everything like that in the face of just such a traumatic injury. Like I couldn't even imagine going through that. So yeah, just great to, see people doing well and getting better, even if it's not in the context of mapping out a return to the ring, because wellness is the most important at the end of the day, right?
No, absolutely. And seeing, and to your point, seeing Chris do a dip to get out of a chair and to start walking like was such a beautiful thing to see. I don't think I've ever met him in person. If I have, I apologize if it was, my memory is terrible. But I know so many people who do know him, and there's most glowing things about him. I know he's from Vegas, and I know we're going to Vegas for WrestleMania, so hopefully there's a chance to bump into him and to just say how much of an inspiration he is, because I know there's so many people who are rooting for him, watching his journey. But yeah, man, it is also a reminder that what we do in pro wrestling and combat sports, like it is inherently dangerous, and people can lose their ability to walk in there. You can lose your life in there. Know that there's some real risk, and I don't say that for fans to pity us. When you sign on that dotted line, you need to be aware of the potential things that can come with it. And look, when I got in, like at no point do you think you're going to break your neck. When I was playing football, I didn't think I'd have all these injuries, but these are realistic things that are on the table, and it's dangerous what we do. Although it's obviously what pro wrestling is, it's entertainment, but it comes with real inherent dangers, and it is a stark reminder of that. So yeah, I'm grateful to still have the life I have. It's beautiful to see someone like Chris Bay getting better, feeling better, and just surrounded by so much love from fans and from peers.
Yeah, it's just so incredible. And I mean, to the point that you were making earlier about some of the projects that you're involved with that are tremendously exciting, it would seem like being part of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man would fit comfortably within that. Like, how has that whole experience been? That seems really cool, man.
No, it's been incredible, and just learning more about the process. And I've had a chance to do some animation and VO before. I was part of a show called Laser Wolf, which actually it's an Adult Swim show, but a very quietly stacked cast. I worked with Quinta Brunson, who has now taken off and done such incredible things. Vince Staples, one of my favorite rappers. So many, the whole voice cast was incredible. Reginald Vell Johnson was the voice of God. JD Witherspoon, who's also incredibly talented as well. But anyways, now working on Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, man, for me was such a blessing and so cool. I have to give so much love to Jeff Trammell, who is the showrunner and a big wrestling fan, and he's the reason that I ended up on Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So this goes back to, he actually reminded me, which I'd forgotten. The first session I did, I was still in the neck brace. So, animation takes so much time to produce, and the show just came out earlier this year, and to see the rave reviews and everything was really lovely. But yeah, we recorded, season one started 3 years ago. I've already started recording for season two. We have to finish that record later, but to see that we were already greenlit for 3 seasons has been incredible. And I know a lot of, especially like comic book fans, can be some of the harshest, most critical fans around. And to see so many people say like, I was on the fence going into this, but it's actually a great show and I really loved it. Like I encourage people, even if I wasn't in the show, it is such a fun show. I think they do a great job with the story. It feels very fresh. I love the throwback style to the old school illustrative comic book style. I think is a lot of fun. And it's just such a stacked cast as well. I'm a huge fan and have been for years of Coleman Domingo. He's a great Norman Osborn. Also, to see Charlie Cox coming in like Daredevil himself is voicing Daredevil in the cartoon is amazing. I had a blast working on the show. And then for me, it's really cool when I'm in the studio doing those VO sessions, getting to see some of the animatics, getting to see stuff they're working on in advance. So getting to see those little sneak peeks and see where the story is going is exciting. But I've had the most wonderful experience working on it. It's Marvel, man. And it is I think probably Marvel's hottest property right now and has been for years, I would say is Spider-Man. Like everything they're doing Spider-Man wise right now is they're knocking it out the park. The Spider-Verse films, I think are some of the best things in Hollywood, not just in animation or Marvel, but they've been so good, so well received. So for me, just to be a bit player in this massive universe that is Spider-Man, for me is really really cool. Voicing Bulldozer was a lot of fun, and I love too. I get to be kind of me in some ways, and get to have some fun. And there, although I am a villain who does terrible things, but there's some moments of levity as well. So it's been a lot of fun. I hope to do more. Hopefully, I stay alive post season two and can continue with the shows afterwards. But more than anything, I'm just very, very grateful to be a part of the show. And I will always sing the praises of Jeff Trammell. He's just a wonderful, wonderful human being and incredible storyteller.
Yeah, just such a great property, as you said, and everything like that. So entertaining. And you kind of touched on multiple tendrils of this situation that I would be curious to get your thoughts on. Just, the discourse around John Cena and his villainous behavior, we'll say. And, being that you're a former WWE champion, I'd be very curious to get your thoughts on that looming WWE title match between Cody Rhodes and John Cena at WrestleMania coming up.
Yeah, as soon as Cena won, obviously I do the pre and post shows, the kickoff countdown shows for WWE. So it's my job to analyze this stuff. And I remember we were all, me, Peter Rosenberg, and Jackie Redmond, we were all kind of sitting at the announce desk. Or actually, I think it was, I think we had Joe with us. I think Joe Tessitore was with us instead of Jackie that day. But anyways, I was sitting with Rosenberg and kind of watching this whole thing go down. And when Cena wins, I'm like, okay, we'll see him get an opportunity to potentially break Flair's record and see what he can do. But yeah, I was like, okay, this is it's going to be a great match. But the turn for me, the Travis Scott of it all, the Rock of it all, really just added such there's such an added layer of depth there of storytelling. I feel like we got to see in Brussels, we see John Cena come out, he cuts his promo, kind of blaming things on the fans. But part of me, honestly, my first thought is, and a lot of people praise the promo, and rightfully so. But a part of me was like, knowing John Cena, I think there's another layer. I felt a little thin. It felt like, as interesting as this is, I know this isn't just it. He's not just saying, it's you, the fans, that's the reason I made this turn. I'm really intrigued to see where this goes. He knows our audience so well. He knows how to manipulate the crowd so well. I feel like, and especially when Cody comes out here and says this whiny version of you, take him to the back and come back and bring me the real John Cena. Bring me the Cena that I'm going to see in Las Vegas. So I'm really excited for this build. I think the European crowds have added such a great element to the shows. Excited for, I don't know when this will go out, but we're talking now on Friday, so SmackDown will be tonight. And I'm excited to see how the crowds take to that as well. So I think this build to WrestleMania has really been buoyed by the European crowds. And I think the Cena heel turn has been really, really interesting. I'm so intrigued to see how The Rock plays into this. If we see more of Travis Scott, I'm sure we will in Vegas, but if we see him along the way at all and kind of just the motives. And I think just kind of this era of episodic storytelling that we're doing, I think has been really interesting. And I think it has our fans leaving each show asking questions, wondering where things are headed, analyzing promos, analyzing matchups, and there's such a renewed interest in our product again. It's been a really fun time to cover the WWE.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about The Rock and Travis Scott, and I mean, being on Netflix, like there's so much connectivity to broader pop culture and whatnot. And yeah, it just seems like such an exciting time for the product in that sense and whatnot. And even seeing some reports that maybe UFC might be looking at Netflix as a broadcast partner with like that media rights situation kind of coming up for them. So just, yeah, super exciting times, man.
Yeah, no, very much so. So I know, obviously, this is our. We always talk about WrestleMania being our Super Bowl, and we're about a month away. So this next 3 to 4 weeks, this build into it, I think is going to be a lot of fun. I know a lot of people are excited, and even just the destination. For our fans to be in Las Vegas for a week. I also I wonder. I hope everyone stays out of trouble. For wrestlers and fans, Vegas you can get into a lot of mischief. But it's been an exciting time, and I think people are they're really jazzed about the product. So that's been cool to be a part of.
Yeah, and speaking of something cool to be a part of, because I was kind of skimming through your Instagram, and if memory serves, you had a level of involvement in Thunderbolt Patterson being, part of the WWE Hall of Fame. And I was reading an article that was saying that your dad really connected with him. So just what did that mean to you to be part of that, considering your own anecdotal life experience and everything?
Yeah, no, it was so interesting too because for years and years, my dad, who is a Jamaican immigrant, he's now in his late 80s, but he would tell me these stories of, he when he left Jamaica, he moved to Tampa, and I grew up in Tampa, born and raised, and he would tell me like these stories of going to armories in Tampa and watching Dusty Rhodes, and he would always say Thunderbolt Patterson was one of his favorites to watch, and he wasn't on WWE programming when I was a kid. When I was watching, that was never someone who I was really exposed to. So then to get the call that they wanted me, Kofi, and Woods to induct Thunderbolt Patterson, a name that I'd heard for years and years in my household, was so fascinating. And then getting to learn more of his story, his impact on the business, behind the scenes as well, to get to actually meet the man and to honor him was just such a really, really cool full circle thing for me. Because I always like in our household, there was a time too where my sisters were both obsessed with wrestling. We would watch Raw every single Monday. We were watching Nitro every single Monday. We were a pro wrestling household, something that I definitely grew up on as well, and kind of lapsed a little bit. Actually, I think it was around the time that WCW got bought out. I was a big WCW guy, and I think around that time I was a teenager, and I was like, I'm over it. WCW, my favorite. It's not going to be what it was. So I was a bit of a lapsed fan, but I just grew up like wrestling was such a big part of my childhood experience. And that name Thunderbolt Patterson was one that I heard so many times and just stuck in my head. I don't know who this man is, don't know much about him, but I heard this name over and over because my dad got to see him so many times in Florida, and then get to meet him and to induct him was really an honor. So yeah, that was very full circle for me.
Yeah, and speaking of, WCW, Hall of Fame inductions, etc., it also seemed like Lex Luger was a really big figure for you. Like, how cool is it to see him getting his flowers now?
Yeah, so a lot of people are pulling up my Players Tribune article from last year because I talked about putting fellow students in sixth grade in the torture rack. I was always like the big, strong kid, and like that was how we bonded. Especially, I was born in 1986, so my formative years are during the Attitude Era. They're during the Monday Night Wars and seeing Lex Luger, I always gravitated. It was fun watching the high flyers and smaller guys, but I always gravitated to the muscular, like superhero like, larger than life wrestlers. And Lex Luger was one of those guys that I just loved watching. Just he looked like an action figure come to life. So the torture I can't tell you how many of my peers when I was in sixth and seventh grade asked me to put them in a torture rack. Same with my sisters. So yeah, seeing Lex work with a DDP as well to work on his health. I love what Diamond Dallas Page has done. Really committing so much of his work to helping older wrestlers get back on their feet. What he did with Scott Hall, rest in peace to Scott, but he helped him get back on his feet. Same thing with Jake Roberts and his commitment to that. I think is beautiful, and also Lex. And I think Lex is. I've read him express just kind of his regrets with a lot of things, a lot of the mistakes he made in the past, and with Miss Elizabeth, and with a lot of his issues with addiction and whatnot. And to see, I always hope that we have a path to redemption for everyone. Like if you are truly contrite and want to grow and want to get better. And I think too often in our industry, we give people our flowers when their flowers when they're gone. And the fact that Lex is still here and has an opportunity to get his flowers and to be inducted and to be honored and to have someone like Cody do it to for Cody to go in to Lex and tell him you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. I thought it was really beautiful. Obviously, Cody, with his relationship with so many of these legends, he has grown up in the business. The son of one of the greatest to ever do it in Dusty Rhodes. His connection with the business is unlike many others. And yeah, it's going to be beautiful to see Lex get inducted, and hopefully he knows how much he means to so many of us who loved him when we were kids and even as adults.
Yeah, it's so incredible, man. Just such a great time in pro wrestling, boxing, and MMA, as we've been touching on throughout this chat. But also to the prior point, I do want to be mindful of your time, man. I imagine you're quite a busy individual to say the least. So figured I'd give you the floor if you had a final parting thought you were wanting to add as we're kind of wrapping up here on Bowks Talking Bouts, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just look out for XFC 52, The Awakening. We will be at Extreme Arena in Coralville next Friday. I believe that's March 28th. Look out, xfcfight.com. You can look for tickets. We're working on TV deals right now as well. So hopefully you'll be able to stream us soon, but we're available on pay-per-view. But go to xfcfight.com to learn more. I'm telling you, from a production value standpoint, from a fight card standpoint, from an action standpoint, it really is a great product. I don't want to ever attach my name to anything that I can't be proud of, and I'm proud of what we're doing with the XFC. And when I talk to Lambert, there really is the owner of the XFC. There's a real commitment to doing things the right way, to taking care of fighters. And I know fighter pay is often a big point of contention and debate. And I think when guys put their lives on the line, they deserve to be properly compensated. And I really think we're making a great effort to do that and to build the business and to get there to where we want to be. So please come out. And if you're in the Iowa area at all, I will be there. Come by. We're doing a little meet and greet as well. Jeremy Stevens, I believe, will also be there, who just recently re-signed with the UFC. He'll be on the Des Moines card. UFC hasn't been back in Iowa. So this feels like a nice preamble for Iowans. If you're excited for that Des Moines card, come out, see us in Coralville in the Iowa City area for XFC 52 on March 28th. It's going to be a great card. And then later you can go to the UFC in Des Moines and watch that card as well. But I'm a big fight fan, so please come out, show us some love. We'll be out on a Friday. It'll be a lot of fun. There's no college football to compete with, anything like that. So come out to XFC 52 if you're in the area, and keep looking out for XFC. We have so many events coming. We're just going to keep growing and growing. So we're on the rise, and I promise you we're bringing great MMA to your city.
Yeah, it seems like the growth has been demonstrable so far, and also a lot of growth to be had in the future from what I can tell as you outlined. But again, thanks so much for coming on Bouts Talking Bouts, Big E. It was a pleasure getting to chat, and all the best with the event coming up, and hopefully you have a good rest of your day too. And yeah, thank you so much for the time and insights.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dylan. I appreciate you.